it's a random map that's chosen, but it isn't random on what these first teams like to ban. It's going to be EMEA Frost taken out on both sides.
Magneto looking to be secured for Zero Tenacity right off the bat. Several Wolverines being hovered here. Virtus Pro, they do not get their hands on the EMEA Frost. They've been enjoying playing it for a amount. We've already seen them start flexing their compositions extremely here as Loki is taken off the board, and that leaves it open for a secure, but Magneto will be prioritized. Vanguards, as we saw in our previous matchup, can be extremely important and can get choked out.
I guess the biggest difference here is that EMEA Frost is the main pick, the main first protector we've seen out of Virtus Pro. Definitely Mummy's Boys, as we've sort of seen the graphic floating around a little bit more. They've sort of taken the post away from all business that we're really focused on playing as much EMEA Frost at the moment. But they'll be happy to take Magneto. Both Finzi and Nevix can play it. And Virtus Pro actually maintaining control of the Human Torch, making sure that Smashnez can't grab it on this first domination map.
And giving it over to Fi, who is one of the more aggressive Torch players, loves to charge in at people from that sky, and he will be happily getting into tight-knit spaces, even with that flyer, because they know that everyone inside is also going to be absolutely burning. As we, speaking of the burn into T'Challa, there are plenty of opportunities for some high ground protection here for Fi.
Are they going to go for the non-mirrored Wolverine like we saw a lot from Rad? I mean, here, I think probably protecting the strategy seems to be the wisest thing. Either getting the Lunar Snow, Cloak and Dagger, that could be something that Virtus Pro might take out on the end, but they want to maintain some of that damage because they have taken out some of the big heavy hitters. Silent Wolverine and Torch, all going to be main focuses of both teams trying to delete them from the server, at least for this map. Protecting the Punisher seems like they don't want to lose out on some of that firepower.
And the last ban will be on that Cloak and Dagger, while the Mantis boost for the Punisher could be extremely scary. Lunar Snow is also a rough option. That will be the main choice. So now there is the option for the Punisher, plus either the Cloak and Dagger for the vulnerability, or the Mantis for the damage boost, or both, as we are seeing. Hey guys, it's your favorite. It's going to be triple rares, or at least double, as we're not seeing a Star-Lord.
I think the Canute it is a bit more expected. And there has been more of a focus, I suppose, of trying to take up Mantis in drafts from other regions. That's gone up in a huge amount of popularity in like Asia, even Americas, to try and hit some of the bigger points. But I think the biggest sort of meta swing from Americas has been it's not like don't give Kobe the ball, it's take Kobe out of the game, put him on the bench for this one, and not let him just play the game at all, because some of those duelist characters uncontested can be a real pain in the backside. But now a full best of 5 awaits these two teams that haven't met each other so far, been on opposite sides of the brackets. Probably we're expecting to be in the upper brackets themselves, but one is playing for elimination, one is playing for a final chance of making the grand finals, making the mid-season finals happening in China. And really, Virtus Pro, you have to say the favorite, but this Zero Tenacity team has to get respect on its name, and what's more respectful than a first map domination against them?
I'm going to steal two phrases that I saw in the chat in the break here. Let us know as we're heading into this first fight. Are you rooting for Canuten, or are you expecting a Fincy-Wincy? Let us know, as Nevix is already wrapping around into the backline to see if they can catch anyone out of position, and a Pyro Prison to cut off this flank from Zero Tenacity.
Camera overload again from the Hulk and Namor for Sparker, so he's able to output more damage, which going up against the likes of Lugia, who's going to be on that Wolverine, means that it is only one Vanguard in the server currently for Zero Tenacity, something that they're sort of more well known for, especially on these domination game modes. And Vi is just really able to just throw down the heat onto the ground, and nobody is really looking up to deal with him for the time being. Nobody's actually gone down. It's more bot shots and some of these Pyro Prisons to keep the damage consistent, forcing out some defensive at least from the Namor, but it is both sides contesting, nobody giving up ground just yet.
Canuten seems to have been put onto Squid duty, currently trying to focus onto those Monstros, and Sparker, as such, is getting their damage output severely reduced, but still has a Horde of Proteus! Triple KO! And yeah, I think Virtus Pro are probably going to take the first point here, but a couple revives coming out, Soul Rejuvenation to fight some extra time, but with Supernova on top of it, the team's getting completely split apart here. They're very staggered, and Virtus Pro are almost certainly taking the first percentage here. Zero Tenacity making them work for it though, buying as much time as they can.
Missionary
It bought a lot of time and bought a lot of ultimates too. Knuten is very close to having a karmic revival, and you also have two of the other duelists ready to go with their respective ultimates. Ducky over on that Magneto, he certainly has made a name for himself in that Vanguard role. He has a lot of work to do, when he is just the only bit of mitigation that's blocking really hell raining down on them from Virtus Pro. But they might need to fight a little bit more to just get out of their spawn, and they're having to go for a flank to try and fight for this high ground. Saipei is going to be sat there ready and waiting for them over on the Cloak and Dagger.
Twitter on the flank, radioactive lockdown onto Smash. There's on the Punisher. That's going to be so rough for them to deal with. Shutting down their main damage dealer for at least a few minutes. Has to drop that Monster Hulk though, because Lugia has moved on in. Another radioactive lockdown is going to force Nemix to retreat here and make their way in for the front line this time. Get slumbered, but it's still dropping a solid amount of damage. Karmic Revival being burned early as Ducky was the first to fall.
And underground as well, so there's this potential wraparound that's actually going to start, and that alongside the Soul Resurgence, the final Judgerin looking to carve on through. The Meteor M not connecting onto anything, so now it's maybe just a case of Finzi to hold on for a little bit more time. They've just on the cusp of hitting 60%, and Lugia might have used a little bit too much. You see the last stand being used and not really connecting onto much at all. Virtus Pro are not giving up this point without a fight. In fact, Fi is going to try and come in with a Supernova. Has to sort of give up a little bit of space as he's respecting that Meteor M. Despite him being a moving target, he doesn't want to be a clay pigeon in the end. Sparker now has another Horn of Proteus to work with as Finzi's come in with the portal play, and actually Zero Tenacity only able to get 20% on the board before Virtus Pro come in with a good amount of pace.
Portal re-engage, setting it up, and as such, Smash is going to swap this over. That the Morn coming in for them, and Lugia moving off of the Wolverine will be bringing out the Hulk so they get that damage boost. They realize their composition was not finding the pickups as much as they like. They're going to just try and ping people with a more sustained fight, but in order to get the sustained fights, they've got to stay on this point and get the sustained.
What have Virtus Pro got to confirm this first point? A Horn of Proteus in the right position from Sparker. If he can line them up, he's going to go for it, and it slams them down. Not quite connecting for the free K that he got last time, but the elimination still going to be appearing in Virtus Pro's blue color of the server. Fi now just almost dunking, sort of tickling the top of Magneto's head with his feet, able to connect, and means that Zero Tenacity now at overtime's hitting the mark that you have to throw your bodies on the line in order to keep contesting, but there's not going to be enough. Virtus Pro really bouncing back at speeds that Zero Tenacity I don't think we're expecting after they took the point.
Very nicely done by Virtus Pro. Like you said, they came back so quickly after Zero Tenacity flipped, thanks to that portal, re-engaged, recapped, and Virtus Pro with heavy momentum. Smash though has that Horn of Proteus and Final Judgment nearly ready for Knuten, so they may be able to turn this round nice and quickly. In Zero Tenacity may be able to get an early cap this time, and with the Hulk and the Magneto, they have a ridiculous amount of sustain, similar to how Virtus Pro held for so long in that first round.
2 eliminations for Zero Tenacity. Just 2.
More than none.
I mean, it's more than 0. But 2 Tenacity doesn't have the same like ring to it, I suppose. You gotta up those numbers. It's rookie numbers at this rate, and it might actually be like Virtus Pro. You have to bring the edge there, and if you're not getting the eliminations, they're able to take this domination point for free, and it means that they're going to have a quick turnaround. Both these teams, respect to them, did play earlier today, haven't had much of a break, and Zero Tenacity's game going on a little while longer in the end, up against Low 9. And now there is Worldbreaker that's come out instantly. The connection over with the Gamma hit is not really going to lead into some more CC, but more eliminations cleared up nicely for Virtus Pro. Able to get more eliminations in 5 seconds than Zero Tenacity have managed in one map.
Nice pickup, Zero Tenacity forced back off the point. They came in with some insane ults, but Nevix came in with the aggression, juggling Magneto out of the way, meaning the backline was very undefended. Punisher retreats to the low ground. They either had to get knocked off the map or knocked into the spawn room via Hulk slaps, and it turned out the spawn room was what hit first. Vi taking the high ground position to make sure they zone, as we see Zero Tenacity realizing that the stairs is not where they want to fight. They're going to head inside, so they're at least protected from the attacks from above by Vi, with Vi only able to hit the entranceway now.
Supernova going to be used. It's really a case of trying to dodge around this final judgment. Finzy, Meteor M throughout the top of it, and it's just a battle of attrition. This damage is hard to sustain through for Zero Tenacity, and whilst Winnie did have the invisible boundary on the invisible woman, decides to not use it, opts to not use it because they lose too many players too quickly, too early. And even with that engage coming in, it's only a mere 7% that they managed to grab onto the point before Virtus Pro have taken it back.
They've zoned them on the stairs once again. Virtus Pro in control. They've got the Hulk back. They hold a Proteus in the doorway. Smashnet still has their own as well, but they just can't seem to get Virtus Pro grouped up. They're playing so incredibly split. You can just see how far back the strategists are to make sure that they're not the ones who are caught out. Fincy once again spots them on the low ground. Shots coming in from Ducky, who is working their way through Fincy, but the Dagger Storm is keeping them topped up.
On a Proteus is looming, it's waiting, but really there hasn't been much case for Sparker to throw it out just yet. In fact, the counterpart is going to come in for Smashnes, and the Horned Proteus is going to follow. Not quite getting the same picks, but the follow-up is there for the first time for Zero Tenacity. Now they've started to get the ball rolling, but it's 80% on the board for Virtus Pro before they're able to take it. And if I'm Zero Tenacity, I'm thinking Virtus Pro still might fight us a lot faster than we're expecting here.
You know that they like to portal in sometimes, so we're going to see them move up to the stairs. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Canuta maybe set up a culling turret for at least some kind of zoning potential from behind. But they're worried about portal re-engage. They're staying grouped up with the rest of the team. Fincy sticking on the Magneto, as they do have that Meteor M. Not going to swap to the Strange as of yet. And Nevix needs to keep that Gamma upgrade for Sparker as they make their way forward. But in the doorway, Meteor M, final judgment. Fincy gets melted here. Canuta pushing on forwards, but they don't want to chase down the stairs as they're worried about getting caught out round the corner, especially with that fade of both worlds, the potential of the damage boost. Vi has snuck round from behind, is going to flaming Meteor to get out.
Oh, the invisible boundary had to be used there from Winnie. Everybody staying alive. Meteor M forced out from Ducky, and you're right, it was Fi that was in the back line that was just hiding behind, tried to get some progression on the point, forcing Zero Tenacity away from this aggressive hold. There's the portal play from Finzy. The Exile is going to come in onto Nevix as that World War Hulk is going to come through. Lugia is the one that was able to CC him, but there hasn't been that much follow-up. Horned Proteus now coming in for a smash. It hits Fi right in the face, but it's not really untethered by it for the most part. Eternal Bond now for Dreedrug collecting some space, and even though Zero Tenacity managed to match close to progression, it is Virtus Pro in the hands of the point again, and not much window for Zero Tenacity to go and compete and contest this again.
Virtus Pro hold the line. Zero Tenacity. Lugia gets frozen. They do have that World Breaker Hulk. Portal coming in from Smashnes. They're gonna try and contest this. Lockdown onto Lugia as they make their way in with that Hulk smash to try and contest this. Nevix forced off the point, and Virtus Pro could just give this up and re-engage once a lot of these ultimates are used as Canuta takes down Fincy to keep the control of the point as everyone else takes cover. Vi dropping down on the other side, but is being chased down by Smashnes on this Doctor Strange. Invisible boundary comes down onto the point, and Zero Tenacity are creeping towards a win here. 88, 89. Fincy coming back on that Doctor Strange. No portal at least at the point yet as they make their way in. Fi sieging from one side, the rest of the team from the other. That culling turret on the point, but they're
Supernova
through it. Supernova being held on to now will get dropped at the back line. It's grouped together. The Gamma Monstro is burning through it, and Zero Tenacity are stepping off the point. They're going to have to leave the Hulk to do it as Ducky will fall. But Lugia is in banner, Lugia is in spawn, and the rest of the team is stuck indoors. The Eternal Bond from the team is holding them back. Cyper and Dreedrug keeping everyone topped up, and Zero Tenacity are going to not make it back in time.
A little bit more fight back from the end in Zero Tenacity, but Virtus Pro just fire especially. He's impossible to take down. He's always involved in these engagements. We have to say the fact that Virtus Pro were able to get 2 Cloak and Dagger ultimates in very quick succession shows just how much people were kept alive in those fights. A great showing from them, and at the very least Zero Tenacity pushing the boundaries and making sure that Virtus Pro aren't going to have a very clean 3-0 here. But the fact of the matter is they weren't able to get a point. They're able to get, what is that, like more than 2, at least 4, 6, 7, 9, 10 eliminations towards the end. I got more of that alone. He was 26-1.
9 final hits as well. If you look at the final hits numbers, that is less than Sparker or Fi got. Sparker getting 9, Fi getting 12. So just on their own, they were able to out-KO the entire team. This order Proteus is literally a third of their final hits on its own. Sparker was playing extremely safe. Fi was playing very aggressive. They were able to juggle it so well, but so much of this has to come down to Dridro and Cypher. They were able to keep the team topped up. They were able to play so beautifully, keeping Fi alive even when they dove in. The Eternal Bonds were always timed perfectly. Vader both worlds to absorb some of the damage from Zero Tenacity and also keep Nevix up, who dropped into banner form so rarely. You see, they finally dropped once in that fight and did go down, but otherwise they were just kept topped up the entire game.
Yeah, even this play, like, look at the top of your screen. You start to see it tick up for progression there. That was fine. It managed to do...
Again, going to be protecting that Magneto. With so many Punishers, Magneto to be able to absorb all that damage. Excuse me, sorry. Potentially Meteor M onto that could be extremely useful.
This is... Oh, this is so risky, actually, now that I've seen it from Zero Tenacity. We have never seen Virtus.pro play this map, at least in Ignite. Obviously, we've seen Virtus.pro. They've won tournaments on the Yggdrasil's path, but this is the end of the bingo page, actually, for Virtus.pro, showing all of the maps in the game, in the current circuit, outside, of course, Royal Palace and Shin Shibuya, that are just put to the wayside for the time being. Everything else has been played. So this is a risk for Zero Tenacity to pull this out when you have no idea what Virtus.pro want to go towards.
The Lunar Snow going to be protected for Zero Tenacity, giving them a little bit of backline protection if someone wants to dive in. That Idle Aura could keep them topped up if they choose to do so. Now, the Punisher taken away. If you have that Lunar Snow, then the Punisher could be hitting the backline while someone else is sneaking around behind the rest of your team. It's a good way to remove at least some of that potential. Virtus.pro playing it nice and safe here, and the Human Torch being hovered as they protect once again. Well, Fi's been playing it beautifully, and it's been working very well, so take it up, take it away from your opponents. One-sided Torch makes it very hard to take extended fights in certain areas, because that Supernova will absolutely dominate.
Final ban coming in being, I was going to say the Punisher, but it's Hulk, actually, which we haven't actually seen all that much, as bans at least.
Yeah.
Might be the first in EMEA, actually. It's been other regions, but we're starting to see it really climb up in popularity. And yeah, against Nevix, no surprise, really. You also stopped that team up from Sparker, which means it's just less Gamma Overload damage done, full stop. So Lugia having access to this on the other side might be quite impactful. The Nevix moving over to group seems like it'd be a safe bet at the very least.
It's certainly going to help them out here as they will make their way in with the extra Groot damage, and of course that Punisher being taken away, the counts are removed, but Wolverine could still be a significant threat with the Soldier, which we see less from these teams. Can still do incredibly well though. Bionic Hook to try and pull Groots out of range can be incredibly effective, and of course Winter Soldier is just not bad at all outside of that one game versus Crisis.
Like we have a little bit of respite after what's been a chaotic last couple of hours for EMEA. But that's only going to last a short amount of time. Zero Tenacity choosing a map, choosing a side, defending first. And a Black Widow pot shot from Fi is going to start us out at the very least.
They've done this a couple times where they'll just siege in from a distance. Also, I just had a look, by the way, to see when was the last time the Virtus.pro played an official tournament on Yggdrasil Path. And it was in Fight Night number 9, a while ago, versus Burma-Patapim, where they won it in a 3-2. Burma-Patapim nearly taking that map off them. So it seems Zero Tenacity may have dug deep into the well to find this little tidbit out.
Hook attempted, at least from Knuten. It's played Bucky amongst a lot of different characters. Might be last on the list, but you do have that team up of Smash Nez and Lugia on the other side. Nevix looking to be a bit more scrappy over onto the group, but a bit more time and a bit more space. And really, it's just a case of both Magnetos. These are two teams that prefer to have the Emma Frost, so tried to sort of make a gentleman's agreement to have the other Vanguard instead. But this is Virtus.pro holding on to take this fight. Nobody's gone down, but Sparker's managed to get a final judgment very, very quickly.
Visible Boundary immediately burned for that extra defense, but they've got the Kraken impact to try and burst on through, but it is just melting. Sparker is so protected. Finzi just kept the magnetic barrier on them. They had the Eternal Bond. They didn't even use Fate of Both Worlds. They just made sure that Sparker was protected. It's a full team wipe, and Virtus.pro begin heading in towards point A in convincing fashion, and they're going to have an easier time holding this because Nemix can start cutting off that main entrance tunnel.
Sorry, Tetra, was that 4 ultimates that was used from Zero Tenacity that were just bowled over by the final judgment? They're not even going to get to contest here. No swap over to the Strange or anything. They just gave this up and tried to have a bit more of a high-line defense over on point B.
Vi is once again where they seem happiest, in the sky, doing damage and making everyone's life bad, because they are just making those health bars disappear right now. Pyro Prism to cut off re-engages, they see the flank, they're making sure everyone is whittled down there, so if they try and cross over the street here, they're just going to get blasted. The team is split in two, and Vi is making it impossible for them to regroup, with Supernova already charged up. When they step out, it's about to be rough.
I am ready to put on a show.
Right. Supernova was used, and Strangling Prison is going to pull everybody together, but the Fate of Both Worlds keeping Zero Tenacity all topped up, so there's not too much the Fi can do in this current situation, but might just catch the Vanguard all on his lonesome. Very lucky to be alive. Ducky having to use the Bulwark on his own. Invisible Boundary going to be met with a Meteor M that was pretty much grabbed instantly from Ducky, thrown straight onto the ground, and it finds 2.
And that got the pickup onto the Cloak of Dagger, removing the Eternal Bond, taking out Dreadro, and Virtus.pro are forced back to spawn. Knudsen building their way up towards another Kraken. Impact currently at 16%, getting dropped extremely low, and actually sniped off by Sparker, and they may have just overextended and lost the advantage they just gained.
That's a big, big risk, and that could bite Zero Tenacity in the backside if they are not careful from this point onwards, especially now that you've got the Fate of Both Worlds, allowing Virtus.pro a little bit more aggression with how they want to take this fight. The Super Hulk is going to come in from Lugia. Worldbreaker is going to just get blocked off by the wall, and honestly, a little bit wasted. Virtus.pro just baiting out the ultimate before they have anything to use themselves. The final judgment for Sparker is close, as is the Supernova from Fi. It's whether they get there first before Winnie and Oasis that are very close to having those strategist ultimates.
Pushing on in, Fi doing a lot of damage on these early setup. Supernova being held and will immediately get dropped. They're trying to tackle them out the sky with the Hulk, who's forced to retreat, dropping down into Banner, and Lugia is in full retreat now, trying to wrap around for the side as Fi gets the first pickup, sees that Neymar on the side, but isn't actually that bothered. They'd much rather just clean out the cart so the distance keeps moving forward. It's a full clean out. Kraken impact with the Strangling Prison. They try to counter it, but it's completely shut down. The Kraken impact are finding a couple resets here. Knudsen pushing forward, but will go down. Virtus.pro, they hovered on the brink there for just a second, but it's Zero Tenacity who fall in the end.
It really is a case of Dreadro helping the team to just cut through what Winnie's invisible boundaries have been. Is Strangling Prison right in the center of them, even when you do have Smashnez connecting onto Thor with the Horn of Proteus. You're only getting one pick, and there's not really any contests happening for Zero Tenacity. They're letting the ends of these points go seemingly for free. There's 3.5 minutes on the clock, and Zero Tenacity instead opting to try and go for a more aggressive fight here and buy a little bit more time towards the end.
They need to make sure they save some ultimates if that's the case, though, as currently all they have is Meteor M. Everything else is just around 50%, and Virtus.pro might not be giving them time to do so. Meteor M looking for the backliners. Instead, it's just right to the face of Smashnez, feeling personal once again after Smashnez set up a counter KO in that last fight. Knudsen is looking for anyone who steps out of position is going to receive that unbreakable guard, but forced back into spawn. Zero Tenacity, they are just running out of time to make something happen. As Virtus.pro, they only have one body on the car. It could be moving faster. They could be cutting down this timer even more.
They don't want to go for that high line, but that overextend happening on the other side now as Sparker Turret and Sparker are very quickly taken out. Fido creating a bit more space with the Supernova is able to catch onto the other duelist of Smashnez. And now Invisible Boundary for Winnie is going to be held on to as Fate of Both Worlds is going to be used first, but you lose the other strategist in the meanwhile. This amount of healing output is just not enough. And yeah, the Moon Knight has come out for Knudsen with how quickly he can farm up those horns of the hands of Khonshu.
Zero Tenacity needed a miracle, and which god did they pray to? It's Khonshu, baby! As they're going to try and delay this. Lugia making their way up to the point of invisible boundary, coming out to match Media and point blank onto Phi to shut down the damage, but the fate of both worlds is giving the attempt out the turnaround. Oh, the Proteus only gets the knockdown as Virtus Pro are able to tank on through. Smashness has a wonderful angle on his high ground, trying to cut off the reinforcements and cut off the retreat of the strategies as Virtus Pro are falling. And one of our first Moon Knights, Noonan, moves on in and chases them all the way back. The young for the chase is just not enough for the finishing blow. And Nevix, realizing there's a Moon Knight in play, brings out the cap.
Has to go for a little bit more of a fighting approach. Sparker also moving over towards the Hela to just try and fight a little bit more from distance. Really, is the long sightlines as well means that the damage can be pretty strong. Knudsen does find another one with a Hand of Khonshu, part of his canoe adventures that he's been relying on. It was a brief showing beforehand, but after the buffs, maybe that's been the answer that Zero Tenacity can rely on in these given moments. But there's a minute still on the clock for Virtus Pro. They are losing players, hemorrhaging them almost with these fights. And Dredra, having the Eternal Bond, has to wait a little bit more time before they get the chance to use it. Does Finzi or Nevik swap over towards the Doctor Strange to go for a portal play? The front door is sort of blocked off, so it feels a bit of a necessity, and Finzi is already used that ultimate. Might want to switch over soon.
They're going to start making their way forward. Sparker taken down on the stagger once again. They don't have an invisible woman to keep this Hela protected with a shield. They're having to rely on Magneto as Nev's spending a lot of time in the backline. As such, they swap off it with the Soldier for the potential of a final charge up onto a Kraken impact to give them an opportunity. Fate of both worlds. Eternal Bond to create a pathway. Terror Cape through the entire team. Smashnet is deleted and Supernova. It's all in for Virtus Pro as they try to commit onto this. Media M is absorbed by the Dark Force teleport. As they're going in for the defense, Smashnets will respawn. Knudsen is absolutely eaten here by Phi, and the invisible boundary is just simply making it so they can't see their own demise. And Virtus Pro are clearing a swath through them.
What wins, the moon or the full power concentrated from the sun? It really does feel like Virtus Pro just have enough heat to get Phi going. And Knudsen swapping over to the Star-Lord seems to be playing like all of the characters available to him to just dash out and stall a little bit longer alongside Lugia that has to go World Breaker in order to give himself more HP to keep things fighting. On approaches does catch on to Saipei. That's a big pick in the end, but you do lose one of those duelists, and now Sparker with the kinetic combine, he's able to find a lot more space, but Zero Tenacity stop the payload before it gets to the end of the map.
They were fighting off the point. He took down the Hulk and tried to crack an impact back onto the point, but he couldn't reach in time. Virtus Pro, their push is put to a halt, and Zero Tenacity, they have opened up an opportunity. There's no overtime here. If they hit triple, they even this up, and they just put on a huge show. Ganuda swapping over to the Star-Lord for the speed of the rollout worked out perfectly. Using the Hulk to zone everyone off the board to at least get some delays worked perfectly. Zero Tenacity, last second rotations has been able to save them this game. Now the question is, can they finish the job?
Ooh, Zero Tenacity showing exactly that, a little bit more bite. But now as they are looking to be attacking themselves, Virtus Pro,
Get ready.
feel like on this defense, getting close to the end of the third point, many teams have been able to do. And certainly with how much space was surrendered from Zero Tenacity at the ends of these like two objectives that they got taken from them, I don't think Virtus Pro are going to do something similar. I think they're going to fight tooth and nail. They have to be careful with Nevik starting over on the Doctor Strange to begin with. I mean, the portal play seems to be inevitable.
Give them a reinforcement if they go down, but them starting on the Strange means they can't swap to it for reinforcement, but it does mean they can build ultimate charge. This is the trade-off of playing Strange early and swapping to it when needed. Sparker already using the Trooper's Fist to back out, making sure they don't get caught out of position. Blast and Barrage as Ganuda, even though you don't keep charge between rounds when it comes to Convoy or Convergence, they're still going to be rolling in with that Star-Lord to try and duel out Fire in the Sky.
More of a fight back in this point. Ducky ends up overextended, potentially grabbed by Sparker. sparked out. Saipe is taking out Smashnez as well, so you're losing enough numbers for Zero Tenacity that they have to give up a little bit more space, and if more eliminations can be found, which is exactly what Virtus.pro do grab, feels that those ultimates are starting to look a little bit scary. Sparker very close to having that Kraken's impact. He is so good at farming up these ultimates this quickly in the map.
Newton's on hero number 4 as they bring out the Iron Man. And Smashnez, realizing that they've got fire in the air, hit scan would be quite nice. Hella's not going to be the choice. They bring out the Ultron, the team up, and this is something Zero Tenacity have done before. And it's worked out pretty well. In comes the Unibeam as we look for the set up a pull onto Ducky to isolate them. Eternal Bond to make sure that they get the control, but Invisible Boundary is keeping everyone topped up for both sides. And we're just seeing Sparker trying to ping anyone out of the air. As Newton wrapping around, but is spotted, so can't go for an ultimate at this stage. Drop low Guardian barrier from winning. Stops the Invisible Woman to give them the extra space. Range of Ultron for the setup. What a hook! What a fist! And it's Ganuda being forced to dash away.
Ooh, they do lose Nevix though, and he had the Eye of Agamotto. Meteor M's going to be used from Zero Tenacity to see if they can get things going again. They found that first pick, but the last stand is allowing Knuten and Ducky some extra space. Lugia taking a lot of that focus, and even the Pulse Cannon thrown on down. Good time set for Zero Tenacity, but it's not going to be a completely given up point. There comes the portal play, and an Eye of Agamotto is handy and available. Ooh, it's right on the edge of being on this second checkpoint again. And Meteor M now waiting for Finzi, biding his time, taking a lot of damage, which was of course being mitigated into the ultimate as a bit more firepower if needed. Doesn't find an elimination, but it provides a window for Virtus.pro to get their bodies back onto the payload and to stall out for just a little bit more time.
Itzy is down. Nevix has Eye of Agamotto, but they are forced off the point. They just could not handle this much damage output from Zero Tenacity, with Lugia bringing back once again the Wolverine for another Zero Tenacity solo Vanguard setup. It has won them so many games, and they jump back to it again when they need it most. When speed is of the essence, they go for aggression.
Very close to having another Pulse Cannon. Knuten finding himself a multi-pick in a couple of games now. He can pull out a play like this against Virtus.pro. It's good to be talked about for quite some time. It's going to be thrown out just through the middle of the Invisible Boundary. It catches onto Nevix again with the Eye of Agamotto in hand. Not ready to pull the trigger. I think he was floating up to potentially loom over Zero Tenacity to get things on the go again. Sparker now bringing out the Ultron on their side too, so it's mirrored in either case. And now Saipe with the fate of both worlds, trying to keep Virtus.pro on this objective, but Lugia, he catches onto multiple of them. He just carves through 3, and it's provided so much more space. Again, they don't need to finish out the map. They want to get onto this second point, and I don't think Nevix is going to have the portal available, and even if he did, he's already involved in this fight.
Lugia is looking for another opening. If they can find someone on the flank as they come through this doorway, they can isolate them earlier. Supernova with the flaming meteor to make sure that they're on the point for the extra delay, but they're just being lasered and point blank Meteor M. But it's brought enough time for Finzi to reach up to the point. Eye of Agamotto going to be coming out with the range of Ultra. Everyone topped up. Ganuda will fall. Lugia is almost taken down, but the song has restored their strength. As Oasis keeps the team topped up, but if Finzi can land this Meteor M, they can go for the turnaround. It's point blank onto Wolverine, but they just tank it. Sparker is on the flank, keeping the team topped up as they push on in. The bodies are falling for both sides. Finzi getting CC'd onto the point, but it's only Wolverine. Iron Fist from 5. Extra body on the board. It's maximum sustain, maximum rollout speed. It's all about the backline as they take out Oasis.
Oh, he's still going. He's connecting and combining very nicely in the end, and he's up in the sky. Even the nerves he had recently to trying to hit pretty much the top of the map. He's got flying control, and he sends Knuten down to the ground. He's able to actually get the pick in the end, and now it's going to be Nevix jumping up like a dog trying to catch a cat up a tree. It's Knuten. It's just out of reach, raining down hellfire upon them, and now the beam is going to force a little bit more space for Zero Tenacity to try and push things. They still have 90 seconds on the clock. This isn't an overtime fight, but it feels like one.
They are giving everything here. Invisible Boundary traded out for the fate of both worlds. Fi is back still on Iron Fist because he's essentially a flyer. He's too sticky to force off those flyers, so Invisible Boundary has to be used every time you can end the line. Eye of Agamotto from Ducky does not find a target. Counter coming in from Nevix. They do find a target, taking down Lugia. Oasis is wiped by Fi, and Knuten and Smashnez are out out of there. Absolutely not. But Fire doesn't want to let them get away that easy. They're going in for the chase.
I mean, they've not swapped up this character yet, showing that there is a little bit more panache to be found, I think, with how these teams are playing. And 40 seconds left. Oh, it might be a bit of an overextend for Finzi. He is completely on his lonesome, and that's one of your vanguards gone. And very close to having a Meteor M, so Reset is going to be back in the fight soon enough. But it's whether the rest of Zero Tenacity and Knuten especially can make a little bit more space. There goes the other vanguard. This is great for them. A snowball could be a big pulse cannon if they can find a few more players. And this is uncharacteristic from Virtus Pro. They're all in different spots. The ultimate use from Iron Fist, but he's shut down so quickly. You forget that he was even there. No contest going to be allowed here for Virtus Pro, and 90 seconds for Zero Tenacity to push to the end of the map.
It is almost exactly the end of the map. Nevix has swapped over to the Thing here. That is an interesting choice. If they can land a Yancey Street charge close enough to the Flyers, they will actually ground them and stop them from flying away. But you've got to make sure you get it on the right height, in the right angle. And of course, a crack in a covering time will shut them down. Finzi has Meteor M. Sparker has Rage of Ultron. A bit of a pulse cannon comes on out. Meteor M for the turnaround, but it doesn't get the pickup. It will be Fi who takes out Knuten.
It was all about just creating a bit of tempo, just burst damage, seeing if anybody else can follow up on it. But now you've got all of these Flyers in the sky and Lugia. A Star-Lord would be nice for Virtus Pro, but it's only Fi that I think can play it, right? So it's really choose if you want to be on the Human Torch or you want to be on the Star-Lord in these fights. Regardless, he has got the drone on him to keep him alive and kicking. And now the Rage of Ultron is going to be used on the other side from Smash Dares. It forces out the fate of both worlds. And I'm looking at Lugia. He has been pivotal in finding these fights and finding space. And a last stand is available. However, the Vanguard fight is going in the direction of Finzi, and a clobbering time for Nevix is ready and waiting, and I don't know if Zero Tenacity are going to expect it this quickly.
Battle leaps to make sure the Fi gets that damage reduction in the air. 19 seconds. Zero Tenacity have to pull the trigger. They are going to make their way in. They will easily touch. And you mentioned that last stand is at the ready, getting the heal up thanks to the team up from that Ultron. Healing up the rest of the team. They make their way in. Wolverine onto the point. They found Fi, who's dropped low. Supernova comes down now for the turnaround. Knuten against the Guardian Barrier. Meteor M to try and take out anyone on the backline. They turn it to deal with that Thing instead. Nevix goes down. Immediately backing away, not wanting to get caught out on this Iron Man. They need to make sure that they have that damage out before the rest of the team catching Ultron. And last stand, but the Iron Bulwark is in this fight, keeping this push going. No strategist ultimates are left available. Smash is finally going to charge up that Rage of Ultron to keep the damage output going. Finzi's trying to delay, but here comes Lugia. They see the Flyers, they see the birds, and they know it's their job to deal with it. They look onto Magneto. In the meantime, in the back line, Nevix is back on cap to hold the delay, pushing on in. Nevix is low, gets away. Sparker is giving everything to keep their vanguards alive so they can hold this. They're right on the finish line. 3 meters to go. Vi is literally standing in spawn, maximizing the damage output on this Hela. Invisible boundary for Winnie for the turnaround, but it's met by the fate of both worlds.
You got the pulse cannon from Knuten. He just needs 1 second of it, and it misses. Nobody goes down for Virtus Pro. In fact, Spark is able to take him up the sky, but Lugia is a missile in himself. The trades are going in the direction. Spark has found 2. Ducky's found 2. Vi switching over towards the Hela, just trying to find that suppressive fire that might be enough. 2 meters away, overtime, inches beforehand. And Virtus Pro, they hold on just for the edge. Zero Tenacity, 2 meters away for evening up the series.
2 meters between Zero Tenacity evening that up and Virtus Pro taking us to match point, and it flipped one way. An almost perfectly balanced game, but that last second swaps onto the Hela, onto the Ultron to make sure that they could try and ping away at this Iron Man indoors, ping away at this Ultron, and try to take out the Wolverine. We talked about it earlier. Moxie brought it up. That Soul Drainer to stop Wolverine moving, just to keep them in place for an extra second or 2, and it was enough to clean up the points and allow Virtus Pro to go 1 game away from getting that rematch versus Patapin.
As a reminder, both these teams played a little bit earlier, full best of fives that both Virtus.pro had to win against Peps 3-0 and Zero Tenacity. A little bit more time used up, but it was 3-1 in the end. That felt like a bit more of a spaghetti game, honestly. It's spaghetti on the floor kind of style, but that is to be expected, like I mentioned, when you've got these guys that are putting in the hours in a very, very warm day across all of Europe. So now Zero Tenacity was so close to actually making this a very competitive map. But honestly, Virtus.pro, uncharacteristic mistakes, I think, from them. But it's really just a case of getting it across the line. They won't care how, they just care that they're able to make this 2-0.
We've called it before, it's time to pull out all of the stops, and we just saw Iron Fist, Iron Man, double Ultrons, and an extra little bit of Moon Knight creep on in from these teams. When it comes down to these final meters, to these final pushes, to these elimination matches, if you've got something in your back pocket that might work, there's no time to just wait around and say, oh, I don't know, guys. You pulled that trigger, and both of these teams did so.
Yeah, and we should definitely start changing the measurements of maps to how many tetras it is instead of meters. It's a shame, I guess, for both teams to not be playing out the EMEA Frost, as they've both been big fans for it. Nevix is a little bit sad because he's been very keen on picking her up and playing, but the Magneto is sort of slotted in nicely for both sides. Zero Tenacity going for the Protect first, which means that Virtus.pro get to take out both EMEA and also the Loki.
Sticking pretty standard so far. Magneto going to be protected for Zero Tenacity as well, so we get the mirrored mags just like we have been so far for the last couple games. Emma's removed, mags protected, and there's the Loki mirrors. So far, exactly mirrored, just in a different order.
I feel like this really just leans into Virtus.pro. Like, the reason that they were such a strong team for the longest time is because a lot of the pick bans, because it didn't have a system like this one, were mirror matchups. And if you play up against Virtus.pro in a mirror matchup, you just lose. They just play it better, no matter what it is. Zero Tenacity have been very good at being able to sort of play around the draft and enable some really exciting compositions, but it hasn't really come to fruition, at least for this series.
One-sided Wolverine so far. There is a chance that Virtus.pro could protect it if they wanted to maybe bring it out themselves. There are so few characters with percentage damage left in the game. Wolverine and Iron Fist are the only ones that immediately come to my mind, as Wanda lost hers. We're going to see that Punisher taken away by Virtus.pro, not wanting Knudden or Smashness to get their hands on that, where they can just try and melt through the frontliners, especially on a map like this, where if you are able to get these good positions, you could really break defenses very easily.
Could make all the difference.
I'm a little bit worried at the protection for Virtus.pro having that Human Torch. I mean, on this map, it's open skies for the most part. Zero Tenacity might move over towards having the Ultron and stuff, but yeah, it is tricky. I think forcing flyers is good because, like I mentioned, it puts Fire into that position of whether you play the Human Torch, if it's available, or if he has to move over towards Star-Lord, because I don't think Sparker plays it all that much, I don't think.
I don't know how much of this is making it out of spawn, because they are currently on the Black Panther and the Iron Fist as their duelists. I don't think that will make it out. We'll have to see as the teams make their way in. It could be solid if they wanted to go hyper-aggressive, but it is so risky to try and bring in something like that when you already know your opponents play the thing. Going double melee mobile characters, having all those dashes removed could be devastating.
Maybe last orders at the bar for Zero Tenacity if they lose out on this map. Virtus.pro looking to be clean after their losses yesterday against Berber Patpim. A map that they are very good at playing around the objective, and Zero Tenacity have also had good results on this historically as well, so no surprise that it ends up coming here. But a loss added to their name prior to this game. Virtus.pro actually have got Sparker on the Black Panther.
I'm happy with one, as long as it's not both. If they were going Black Panther, Iron Fist, and that Captain America, it would certainly be a quick roll on the first point. But getting those portal in and then immediately bringing in the thing could shut that down so fast. But Zero Tenacity for now are just trying to laser fire out of the sky as they're sticking with this Ultron Iron Man composition, trying to unibeam. Vi's trying to land the shotgun shots, and neither one is coming ahead on this duel. Nevix will be the first to fall on that Captain America, and down goes Vi, finally picked up by Smashness, and Lugia finding Fincy and taking them into the abyss.
On themselves some nice picks, so they've wasted pretty much a minute of the thought allocated right at the start of Central Park. The switchover is going to be having the Ultron in the sky to pair up with Vi on that Human Torch. Nevix on the Captain America. See if he can leap in. And really, there isn't too much that can take Knudsen out of the sky other than just the aerial fighters themselves. Smashness forced to use that team up mostly for just healing to keep the Iron Man alive. Bulwark is even going to be used with just how much focus that Knudsen's taken. He has the pulse cannon, but the majority of these targets are up in the sky, not grouped up together.
Sparker trying to land their shot, take up the first rage of Ultron from Smashness to try and break through this cloak and dagger. Has to use dynamic flight though, as Sparker is looking for the turnaround play here. Knudsen forced to retreat inside at least for the moment, as the aggression from Virtus Pro has allowed them to look close to that first third. But the counter, Lugia, is making it very untenable to stay here, making Virtus Pro retreat as Nevix fell once again.
I mean, this non-mirrored Wolverine, especially when it's Lugia playing on it, is a threat. It always is. The last stand, just as Fincy thought that he did enough to survive, he gets pulled right back onto the objective itself, and nothing has been made progression-wise on the side of Virtus Pro. The fight is still ongoing. The fate of both worlds. Oh my god, that block from Nevix! He leaped across the sky and just bounced the Meteor M back. It was looking like it could potentially grab onto Oasis. Even Sidebait, it was using the fate of both worlds. But man, what a block from Nevix, the freedom charge, trying to get some momentum going, and the second pulse cannon from Knudsen yet again finding absolutely zilch.
Vi was taken out in that fight earlier by the Wolverine after being pushed off the map, but has already returned because they can just fly around the side. They're trying to get the shot onto that range of Ultron. Smashness is trying to zone away the reinforcements, but will get taken out by Vi, and the dive in from Sparker as Virtus Pro with the Supernova will try and cut off the reinforcement points. Lugia is looking for the opportunity. Fate of both worlds has to be used just to break the opening.
Supernova thrown down. Yeah, fate both worlds means that all of the bodies are starting to congregate for Zero Tenacity on this objective. Is there anything that could potentially take the roll out their misery? Not quite. Lugia though with the portal play leaving through, seeing if he can find this fight, and it's Ducky that's moved on over to try to enable one final engagement for Zero Tenacity. Less than a minute left on the clock. One hold here, and it might be a pretty short map if they're able to have a good attack inside themselves, but that might be thinking too far into the future. This Virtus Pro team is very hard to take down. Rage of Ultron going to be used not to try to protect the Lugia leaping in with the last stand. I think the rest of Virtus Pro turned around and said, we're fine, we're good. Let's throw the power back at them. The Eye Bagamoto is going to connect onto Sparker, who was up in the sky, and Oasis makes sure that he's taken back to spawn for the time being. And Fincy being thrown around the map for the time being. Fi trying to dodge this very angry rodent that's on the ground. That is Lugia just fighting in. Another pulse cannon being used, not connecting onto anything from Knudsen, and a Meteor M from distance doing the same.
They can't reach the point. They're trying to make their way in. Lugia is trying to hold this. Sparker is swapped over to the Wolverine for the turnaround play as it comes to Freedom Charge. Forced off the point by Lugia. Sparker gets frozen. Nevix is trying to give their team all that extra time on that turnaround as Ducky will get focused down and will finally get taken down. Portal not yet back. Lugia with the bonus held for the extra stage. It's a sliver between the point being capped, and finally Zero Tenacity are forced off the point with just a couple seconds to go. The quick retreat out of the chase is real, and Flaming Meteor will get the finishing blow. Virtus Pro finally crack this map open and begin making their way into Dracula's castle.
While clearing the path to make this a little bit less abrasive for Virtus Pro, as that first point took pretty much everything that they had available. And now Zero Tenacity, they have at least that security of taking a fight here with the fate of both worlds for Oasis. That, however, is all that they have available for the time being, but a pulse cannon might not be too far off for Canuta with the amount of suppressive damage that he's able to be doing. Can't quite combine or mirror at least a human torch in the sky as it was banned out, so has to try to improvise with this character. Has got the pulse cannon, hasn't connected onto anything so far, I think, so far this map, but there's a lot of bodies now fighting on the point. There it comes in, and the last stand creating a bit of space, enough, but Fi taking down people with the slam to the ground means that the numbers are still in favor of Virtus.pro.
Trying to get onto Smash there, Sparker just watching him menacingly as Finzi will finally get the final blow. They did lose Fi as that invincible pulse cannon was finally able to land thanks to Fi diving in, but flying character, very fast, is already rejoining his team and finds Canuta on the flank. There's also an attack from below as Nevix is trying to get onto them, forcing Canuta to retreat indoors. Here comes the rage of Ultron, but Fi is already trying to chase them down. The backliners just playing extremely far back. Last stand, max range, that's the triple quadruple, and Virtus.pro are cleaned off the point with just under a minute to go.
Lugia has been so good at this, it almost means that like, the focus has completely gone off the fact that it's just one Vanguard for Zero Tenacity when Lugia is just carrying the burden that much. The Virtus.pro now 30 seconds on the point. You can see exactly where it's sort of got to and where Virtus.pro are trying to take this next engagement. They have to keep an eye on Smash Des that's fighting from distance, but the Freedom Charge is trying to cut through exactly where these players from Zero Tenacity are playing from. Frozen down from the Absolute Zero from Oasis. It's still going to be a fight of Ducky being able to bounce back. The Meteor M bringing Fi low, but not quite enough to bring him out for the time being. Overtime is beckoning. The invisible boundary is going to set up Zero Tenacity for this final hold, and a pulse cannon going down onto the point, not catching onto much again.
Meteor M, though, will get Oasis. That's going to remove a lot of extra healing from Zero Tenacity, and it looks like it's going to help Virtus.pro push on in. Zero Tenacity are falling. All that's left is the Flyers, and guess what? Flyers are in the sky. They're not on the point, as the objective is grabbed by Virtus.pro, pushing on into the castle doors, and they're able to finish off Smashness on the retreat. Canuta's running.
Yeah, they're trying to fight Canuta as well. He's just thrown himself off the map to try and reset quickly. And oh, it's getting dicey time-wise now. Elimination's pretty even, all things considered, but Virtus.pro just always find enough when it matters. Better late than ever, as I suppose is what people are going to say. And now Spark is actually switching things around to be playing a bit of Wolverine himself. Of course, it wasn't banned out. Trying to see if his last stand can find as much success as Lugia's.
Activating the map transformation. They want that high ground rotation to be available. And Sparker already creeping around. Finds Canuta in through the doorway. But the imperative patch and the imperative firewall keeping them topped up. Lovely play by Smashness as they drop the range of Ultra for the extra sustain. And we see Zero Tenacity taking that first hit from Sparker and able to hold the line, but they burned an ultimate to do so. Sparker, last stand for the turnaround. Fi takes out Winnie after the setup.
That was a very well set up play. Wasn't even an audacious one. Now the pulse cannon is going to come through, but the supernova is the thing that just has a little bit more punch to it in the end. Canuta and Smashness are taken out as overtime. Third time that it's hit, but the third time that Virtus.pro have taken the lack of points on the clock and able to actually look like they're going to finish up this map unless Zero Tenacity have a little bit more bite for this fight. It's scary though. You've got the Freedom Charge held onto from Nevix, and a last dash in as Canuta has to be the one to touch.
And they will touch though to buy some extra time. Finzi, Meteor M, just going to drop it on anyone on the point to try and buy it. It's a train in Meteor M's in unison as in comes the eternal bot from Dritro to make sure that the Virtus.pro have the extra save onto the board. They take out 1, 2, 3, and no one is on the point. That is Virtus.pro with the triple, and Zero Tenacity teeter on the edge.
Yeah, Zero Tenacity being so good. It's just like one fight on running out of fumes when it matters, just not really keeping up with the stamina, I suppose, the Virtus.pro being able to put together as a team. Having to finish out the map is tough, and it could have realistically been Zero Tenacity holding onto the first point alone, so that's got to do a lot of damage to morale. You have to finish out, and you have to go for another round on this attacking side to do a little bit better. That's the goal that Virtus.pro has drawn in the sand. But now that you're having to go for an attack yourself, Zero Tenacity, how are things going to change?
Nevik so far has been dropping a consistent Vibranian W, getting the turnarounds, deflecting those invincible pulse cannons, and as such, Knudsen has yet to lock in. Do they want to keep with this Iron Man? Oh, yes. It's time. When you get in this situation where you know it's time to try something, you need to bring out anything. What do? It's time for Hawkeye. Snipe from a distance with the Lunar Snow buff. It got nerfed. Is it enough to stop Zero Tenacity from locking down Virtus Pro and creating an opening?
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
It is pretty much through the fire and flames. Zero Tenacity, win or loss, have to carry on. Lugia trying to go in for a dive to see if he can catch somebody out, but unfortunately not able to connect. And you're right, the Hawkeye is still going to be dedicated to from Knudsen. It is nerfed, even tweaked, just the numbers brought down a peg or two. So you still wonder if Knudsen could do a lot of work on this, and wondering if he's going to be up against some flying characters. Lugia is able to take out the counterpart, the Wolverine on the other side, but he's taken himself out in the process at the same time.
Enforcement distance a little bit shorter for the attackers, so Zero Tenacity do get the benefit of that. Fi trying to chase them down, though, taken out by Smashness, and Zero Tenacity slow but steady, creeping forwards. Frost Arrow at the ready, gets the lockdown onto Nevix. They're looking for an opening. Lugia taking out Fincy. It's slow, it's working. They're trying to get onto that cap, who's forced to back away, chase into the hallway as that timer begins to tick up, and Knudsen is happy to just dual cap in melee if need be.
And the dive is trying to go in onto the back line, and you do have the Hunter's Sight being used. You've got the Eternal Bond also trying to leave Virtus Pro a chance to go for this engagement from Treedro, but Ducky with the Meteor M is the one to find an opening. It's 88% on the point, but there's still 3 players from Virtus Pro fighting tooth and nail for every single moment of time. Even if this is a lost battle, they want to keep things flying on and force now both of the support ultimates from Zero Tenacity at the same time. That could be a little bit of a mistake if it wasn't for Lugia finding a lot more of this control. The dashing around off the back of the last stand is going to keep Virtus Pro's numbers down to dwindling positions. It's still enough to hold on to this objective, though, and even though we are just seeing consistently Zero Tenacity filling up the elimination feed on the right hand side, it's only up until now that Zero Tenacity have had to give this up.
They make their way in. Zero Tenacity grabbed the point on the attack here. Fine went all in once again for the last-ditch effort. We saw it last time. They went for a double on what I'm going to call the Fire and Fist here, but they got picked off both times. They found no value, just tried to get it for the sustain, but guess what? You're up against a Wolverine, and a Magneto with the back cannon, and a double freeze composition. They could not find anyone and were picked off quickly in those fights.
Sparker's trying to decide what he wants to play. He's moved over from the Wolverine to the Ultron to the Wolverine again. So now, I mean, so much damage has been done from Knudsen here. You can't say that there's no value to having Hawkeye in this position, and especially when you have a bit more vertical mobility, it is going to be irritating for Virtus Pro to deal with this now. Rage of Ultron is going to provide some space, but the Supernova is going to cut through the backline like a hot knife through butter. Fi has found himself 4, and it seemed to be 5. It's just completely clean from him, and he hasn't broken a sweat in the process.
Need to be careful of those ice arrows, though. If they get caught out of position alone, they could be in trouble. You can see that little snowflake hovering around them as Fi does have that idle aura from Cypher, so they can just keep these duels going. Zero Tenacity, though, with 3 minutes to go. Plenty of time to try and re-engage it. Looking below as the Wolverines will trade out onto Fincy, and once again they catch him. Now they're looking aggressively onto Fi once again with the chase. It's all hands on deck. Someone catch this, Johnny.
Oh, now Nevix in the middle of the battle does have the freedom charge, and I mean, he's just tapping Hawkeye on the shoulder like what you're looking at, bud, and then just slapping him around the face with the shield. But there's the ultimate coming out again, and it's just really a case of trying to force out shots, and Sparker is just being a pain in the ass to try and deal in the backline. It's meaning that all of that damage is more focused to deal with the flank as opposed to the front line of Virtus Pro.
making their way onto the point. Virtus.pro holding the line. Last stand brings in Oasis and Ducky taking them out here. And we're seeing that Hawkeye trying to get some value. We see also the retreat out of Smashness trying to make it to the base, but Fi with a shotgun-like blast takes them down. Finally, they will get Fi for the revenge, which will be a stagger, as we're very close to Zero Tenacity spawn. They might be able to try and take this. Canuden has given up on this Hawkeye, brings out the Star-Lord to try and duel in the air.
Now Lugia, middle of the fight, not being able to see much as the Terra Capers hit him slap bang in the middle of this engagement, but the leap is going to bring Ducky out. Sparker's trying to see if he can sort of match some of this success that's being found in a Meteor M, creating a lot of space, a lot of bodies, and even though he tries to dodge the barrier that was coming up, that metallic curtain from Finzi, it's not able to find anything at all. Vi with a Supernova again, able to get a little bit of mitigation off the back of the Cloak and Dagger. He gets caught out just as the Supernova was used, but he's able to stay himself alive, to stay afloat, and there's a lot more damage being done. Sparker with the last stand on his side, not really leading towards any eliminations, but Zero Tenacity's time, the wick is starting to burn down, and just over a minute left.
Galactic Legend being committed, but the Eternal Bond is keeping Virtus.pro topped up through this fight, and Zero Tenacity are struggling to find an opening with less than a minute to go, Ryan. Vi is fighting indoors. If they can get rid of this Star-Lord, if they can avoid getting picked off, they might be able to hold this.
All to play for now. Tournament life on the line for Zero Tenacity. Smashless having the Rage of Ultron, it's the thing to go with. Is it going to be combined with much? There's nothing available, honestly. It's just a bit of more body damage done, as Nevix was pretty low, as was Fi, but the healing that comes out of Saipane Dredro is enough to keep them afloat. The Strategist Ultimate's not quite available at the time being, and Lugia with the last stand, it could be exactly that for Zero Tenacity. It's 20 seconds left on the clock, but in fact, Lugia is the one that gets caught out. He gets grabbed by Sparker on the other side, but he's able to just survive out. Fire's been taken out, however, which means that there might be a bit of space for Zero Tenacity to keep things afloat as we hit overtime.
Vinci trying to predict the invisible woman, doesn't find him, and will take out Oasis, who did not have their ultimate, but it means that Winnie is able to get away with the invisible boundary to set on up. Sparker moving on in. Cypher with the Fate of both worlds is keeping Virtus.pro pushing on into this fight, looking for anyone on the wraparound. Sparker moving on in to take out the front line, remove people from the board. Fight is uncontested up here. Here comes the Galactic Legend to try and break this open. Meteor M from Ducky to take out the defenders. One goes down. Dredro removing all of the healing, and Zero Tenacity are finding the opening. They're pushing on in. Blast on the run. Captain America, no freedom, no hope, and Zero Tenacity latch on to a single opening. That door is their last hope. If they can stay on this card until those doors open, they're still in. If Virtus.pro keep it shut, it's all over.
Ooh, Supernova is on the horizon, and Nevix is going to run it with a freedom charge, so there's no portal play, there's no Doctor Strange has come out just yet, but that's enough damage onto the point that's going to make this uncomfortable, even through the middle of this Fate of Both Worlds required from Oasis. Winnie's not going to be close to an invisible boundary. Smashness not quite there with the Rage of Ultron. You do have the numbers, though, ever so slightly. Smashness has found them, but they've gone off of the point. They had the numbers there. They were finding the picks for Zero Tenacity, but they just hopped off the point for a second. And Virtus.pro take this series 3-0.
GG. Virtus.pro set themselves up for another fated rematch with Berber Patapim to qualify for the Marvel Rivals Ignite mid-season finals, and to try and get another revenge against Rad if they can get past Berber Patapim. Zero Tenacity, a valiant effort. They should be proud of themselves for that performance, doing so well. They almost brought it back, bringing it to once again meters and seconds away from victory. Lugia just playing out of their mind here today. Everyone did so well. The versatility, the skill, everything should be commended. But it's not enough. The Kings stand tall, and Virtus.pro are trying to come back for their throne.
I think for Zero Tenacity, you've got a bit of a break now, at the very least, with a 4th place finish. certainly something to like be home and proud about. I think you've got some time to really gel as a team, and honestly, the squads that you were able to beat or lost to in the case of Rad and Virtus.pro here have just been together as a core a hell of a lot longer. Now you have months of scrims ahead of you, a new meta no doubt on the horizon by the time that we see Zero Tenacity show up again next on our screens for Ignite. Really does feel a case of any iterations, any upgrades that you might have, get them done now, get the practice in, and you're in for a real shot, because Virtus.pro, even though it was a clean 3-0, there was nothing clean about the maps themselves. There were a lot of very close instances, and maybe some moments that Zero Tenacity should have come out as winners.
But in this case, Virtus.pro will claim their spot in that lower bracket final. The prophecy has come true. There are 3 teams. 1 of them will be crying and 2 will be in those grand finals and going to China. Tomorrow, we will find out who it is between Virtus.pro and Berber Patapim. Who will be joining Rad? We could not ask for better options to choose from as to who will represent EMEA at those mid-season finals. I am exhausted, cream cracker, after some of the best rivals we have seen, period.
It's been fun. It's been a really good day in the end of Virtus.pro. They're going to be happy that this story continues on, despite the fact that yesterday didn't go to their plan. But it does set up that final, lower bracket final rematch of Berber Patapim versus Virtus.pro, and one of them is going to be qualifying for not only the grand finals that we're going to be seeing tomorrow as well, but that mid-season finals in China. So it's a scary game if you're a Berber Patapim fan. You need to go and do the unthinkable, which was winning in that best of 5 the first time. Now you've got to do it again.
If this was a show, the scriptwriters will be absolutely cooking to get us to this point. With this matchup again, Berber Patapim versus Virtus.pro. They thought they were done with it, but now they have to face these guys again. Sparker is joining us from Virtus.pro. After an incredible win over Zero Tenacity, you're heading back into those lower bracket finals, a position you found yourself in before in your group stage, and you in that brought it back and brought out another victory. Will history repeat itself?
No, I don't even know how they won yesterday. I'm gonna be honest. Like if you just look back at the maps, I don't really know what happened. I feel like I won, but I don't know about them. I feel like they're scared that they have to play us again.
I mean, it's hard work to beat you once, never mind twice. I did want to talk a little bit about yesterday. Obviously, you had stuff like the disconnections happening and momentum being taken out, but like, what were some of the things that you recognized that you guys did wrong that you wanted to rectify going into today's games? Was it anything about the draft? Was it the maps? Was it just even how you guys were synergizing? Because it was a close series against Berber Patapim, right? But it still felt like you weren't quite on your A game.
Well, with the new ban system, I think it's a lot about the bans, but I feel like it wasn't about the bans yesterday. We just messed up a little bit fundamentally, maybe mechanically. I mean, it was a close game. We were like 1 fight away on both maps, except Araco. They took that one fair and square, but the other ones were very close.
So are there going to be any changes that you're going to do heading into tomorrow's matchup, or are you just confident that it's just a new day and this time you can take it?
We're just gonna play like normal, and we know from the last game, we know what they like to play, we know what they like to ban, and yeah, I don't think there's too much new stuff.
I guess I'm wondering a lot more as well, because you only like lost your first series a couple of weeks ago, right? And it's still only 2 that you've actually dropped entirely. I mean, I wanted to sort of ask, like, how do you react after games like yesterday? Like, again, like, losing is inevitable. No team is going to be completely on top forever. But now that you're sort of looking at a game of qualifying to that China tournament, right, and being able to get into the grand final and potentially just go for the losers bracket run to win out again, What was it like yesterday? Do you have to like dust yourself off and just be like, it happens, we need to go again tomorrow? Or honestly, are nerves starting to kick in a little bit, because this is where it really starts to count, right? You don't want to be the team that misses out on qualifying for that first LAN, especially when you've been dominant the entire year leading up to it.
Well, it sucks to lose a game in that fashion. So of course everyone was a bit down yesterday. But I feel like the worst part about all of that was having to wake up early for the game one. Like, we're all a bit late sleepers, so it was just a bit awkward to wake up early because we didn't expect to lose to them, so don't think we're too nervous.
Well, you are now one series away from the grand finals and potentially getting in to be the second EMEA representative for the mid-season finals. The last question is simple. What words do you have for Berber and Patapim and what could very well soon be the world?
Don't get nervous, Berber. This is the game for all the marbles.
Don't get nervous. A wise words for us all, because I know I'm nervous for everyone involved. Sparker, thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you get some sleep, as once again you're going to have to be up to play in that lower bracket game tomorrow. Best of luck to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.